Thank you for your time. I'm grateful. I'm very grateful that you're seen fit to perhaps maybe even finish the course, finish the class, and perhaps then take some actions. I truly believe that some of this material is life-changing. It certainly will help you be a better salesperson. It'll certainly help you be a better marketer. It may help you even be a better parent. But more than that, the class is designed to help you as a successful man or woman to become more successful and then be able to pass on some of your wisdom and insight and truth. That is what it takes. Wit. Also, a sense of humor. Wit is what it takes to be successful in life and business today. A man or woman who cannot smile, who cannot laugh, will never be truly successful, and they will never be a good coach and mentor. But more than that, wit also stands for wisdom, insight, and truth. We're kind of modeling in our conversations the TED Talks, which are about 20 minutes. And TED was technology, entertainment, and design. And that's what it was about. Well, we are a little different. We're about wisdom, insight, and truth. Now, with that in mind, what I'd like to do is kind of put on my reading glasses for a moment, if I might, because my other glasses don't work quite that well. And what I would like to do is to read for you something from my book entitled Upside Down, a Meditation and a Benediction. Let me quote these things to you. Many are familiar with the well-known prayer attributed to the great theologian Reinhold Niebuhr and often used by the good folks in AA. Give me the power to change what I can, the courage to accept what I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. Yes, wisdom. Ultimately, the goal of mentoring and coaching, indeed teaching, is to create a worldwide web of powerful men and women who walk with wisdom. WWW. They walk with wisdom. A later writer, Eugene Peterson, wrote this about wisdom. Wisdom has to do with becoming skillful in honoring our parents and raising our children, handling our money and conducting our sexual lives, going to work and exercising leadership, using words well and treating friends kindly, eating and drinking healthily, cultivating emotions within ourselves and attitudes towards others that make for peace. Right now, the business world does not need any more MBAs. We don't need more Masters of Business Administration. As I oftentimes say, the problem with having an MBA, you actually might think you are one, a Master of Business Administration. It needs people who seek to be wise, to be world-class in their business practices, and ethical and strong in their leadership and service to colleagues and customers. My challenge to you is that you be that kind of person and help others be that way too. That's why when it comes to mentoring, I believe it is all upside and no real downside. It's really important to me, that in effect, that when people carry me out, and I oftentimes say that one of the best ways that you can begin a mentoring relationship is actually to do what Peter Drucker did for many, many years, particularly in the later years of his coaching and mentoring practice. Toward the end, he obviously was the management consultant par excellence. But later in his life, he came to a rather unique practice. He took something from the words of St. Augustine, who had said that one of the classic questions is very simply this: how do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered? And he said, what I discovered is that a man or a woman in leadership who could not answer that question, I probably couldn't really help them. Somehow they had to decide in their life and in their business position, when I'm no longer there, how do my colleagues, how do my customers, how do the people remember me? You know, that proverbial, what do you want people to say on your tombstone? What do you want your children to say at your memorial service? How do you want people to remember you? And perhaps it could be that the really good mentor is the man or woman who's wise enough to ask the question and seek to answer it, how do I want to be remembered? And they hopefully teach and tell others that, and then hopefully they'll be held accountable or responsible to live up to it, and they can then have the privilege and perhaps the honor of doing the same thing for others. That there truly is a worldwide web of men and women who walk with wisdom. And that's what the world needs now. It doesn't need more education. It doesn't need more knowledge. It needs more men and women of wisdom. With all the knowledge and information we ever need, and more so. One of my colleagues pointed out, he said, I think it was, I don't know if it was Picasso or not, but so don't quote me on this. But he simply said this: computers are basically useless because all they do is give us answers. All they can do is give us answers. And that may not be what we need. We may need the questions. We may need the wisdom. And we may need to go through both the love and suffering that requires in answering those questions and then living them out. So here's my challenge to you. Now, I want you to understand the word I just used. Oftentimes when I'm mentoring other people, the way I do directions, and I said this is part of a longer class, is I go through these steps. The easiest thing to say to a person is, with your permission, may I make an observation? It's not a judgment, it's not even a criticism, it's just an observation. It seemed to me that you were a bit nervous at that presentation. Could you respond? An observation might be helpful. The next, gearing it up a little bit, is to go from an observation to say, with your permission, or would you allow me to make a suggestion? No. Maybe it would be helpful if you would do this. Observation, suggestion. Now the next step is perhaps to be a little bolder and a little more directive and make a recommendation. If I were you, Deb, I would do this. I would really strongly recommend that you take this action. That's good. And of course, they always have the right, the permission. They know this to say no. Remember, we're coaching. We're not managing. Okay, we're mentoring. We're not moving them. We are allowing them the freedom to make good, responsible choices based on the relationship and the information and the knowledge and wisdom that we share. So we go from an observation to a suggestion to a recommendation to a challenge. And I've done this quite often in my coaching career. We've come to a certain decision about something that needs to be done. And I'll look them straight in the eye, maybe take off my glasses or put on my glasses, whatever is best for the show at that moment, and say, I would like to issue you a challenge. I want you to get that book written in 6 months. I challenge you. And then I simply say, will you accept the challenge. They can say yes, they can say no, or they can say they think about it, but what I've done is I put it back to them. And those kinds of ways of working. Now, I would encourage you to take this seriously. These steps of observing, recommending, and suggesting and challenging about knowing that we're about doing wisdom. And then I would really encourage you to have what I would call your own wisdom path. Who are you studying? Who is teaching you? Who is coaching or mentoring you? What is helping you become wiser, more insightful, more in line with the truth and the reality of the way the world works? What is your wisdom path? And part of good mentoring and coaching and actually being a good advisor to other people is that you have a wisdom path and you're seeing whether they have one and if there's any meeting of it. I remember, as I said, one of my good clients, a very successful man in the financial services, and we had talked about the power of wisdom and beliefs, and then he all of a sudden he leaned back and he said, "You know what, Stan, it's clear to me now. You know what clients really give me trouble? Are the people whose wisdom, values, and beliefs we don't share. It's all about the business, it's all about the money, and those are the people who cause me the most grief. And probably I'm uncomfortable in the grief to them too." Isn't it nice to have those people who were sharing real wisdom, insight, and truth together? So my suggestion to you is, if you're going to be a mentor, a coach, a teacher to others, you are seeking a way to become wiser in the things that are important to you, and particularly in your life, and particularly in the business and industry you're at. I oftentimes say this is, what if they brought together the top 100 people in your industry and they asked you to take 10 minutes and tell them what was important and what they should do? What would you tell them? What would you say to them? What would be your coaching and your counsel and your mentoring to the men and women in your industry about the future and the things they need to do and the places they need to go and the people they need to cherish and the people they need to coach and bring up and help the next generation be successful? You see, we are only one generation at a time from the jungle. It is only as the values of one generation are passed on to the next that those things that make civilization, I'm old school, worthwhile and make it work. And you have a moral, spiritual, and ethical responsibility to be successful as best as you can and to be ethical. But you have a responsibility to take what has been given to you and what has been given to us from the ages, what has been given to us from spiritual realities from heaven above, and we are to pass it on to those who are younger and aspiring and engaging and will be the next generation. That's my challenge to you. Will you accept that challenge? Will you learn how to be a coach, a teacher, or a mentor to a young man or woman who you admire, who has a sense of aspiration, and they would like to be kind of like you? That's my challenge. Will you accept that challenge? Well, at least thank you for thinking about it. And we'll close with a benediction in just a few minutes.